Hi guys, Harbs and Narbs here. Today I'm going to be sharing a rather outlandish theory that could link Baldur's Gate 3 to Siege of Dragonspear. This video will contain spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3 and the original Baldur's Gate games, but nothing will be data mined from Baldur's Gate 3 itself. We know from the Legends of Baldur's Gate comics that Minsc mistakes a sorcerer called Delina for Nera, and as this is a reference to the enhanced editions in a product outside of the games, it might be safe to say that Wizards of the Coast are okay with this being canon, or at the very least, happy with the enhanced editions being used for future products. And generally, this comic series involving Minsc can definitely be linked up to BG3, as Jim Zub, the writer of the comics, literally said that his newest one called Mindbreaker will be the run-up to the events happening at Baldur's Gate. Although I will say that the definition of canon regarding official products sanctioned by Wizards of the Coast is somewhat starting to blur.
Burn everything! Burn it now!
All right, burn everything. All the files, file cabinets. See, let's get a card over here. Burn it all. Come on, burn everything. Burn it back. Everything.
So in Baldur's Gate 3 we know that there is something going on with the Dead 3. We knew this before the game released in early access because Larian literally told us, and I've mentioned it at least 1,000 times in my videos, but we can also see Dead 3 symbolism on many of the goblins, and the thralls upon the Nautiloid, yet they all worship something called the Absolute, and are part of a cult ruled over by true souls, who all have Illithid tadpoles in their heads. Well, I've been wondering for a while now, are the Illithids working with the Dead 3, or are they being manipulated and forced to work with them? I've linked a bunch of videos down below if you haven't seen my theories, because they might help you to understand where I'm coming from. Anyway, I've been thinking, how did the Dead 3 get in contact with the Illithids, or vice versa? What made them want to team up, and how did the plan come about? Who decided first that this world-ending team-up would be a good idea? I found several links already between the original games and Baldur's Gate 3, not only in the main plot but also more minor things, and I'm playing Siege of Dragonspear again because I haven't played it for a number of years, and I thought I'd revisit to see if there was actually anything Larian might have used, been inspired by, or are trying to link up for possible continuity purposes. I don't think there was ever some long-term plan by Wizards of the Coast for the Absolute, so this theory is largely based on the idea that maybe Larian found something they liked and started to pick up the loose ends.
Our skill, at least respect their sacrifice.
In Siege of Dragonspear, we have the opportunity to go to a ruined temple of Bhaal, and remember, he is a member of the Dead 3, the other two being Bane and Merkel. When we arrive at the temple, we find an imprisoned priestess of Bhaal called Madel, who informs us that the temple has been taken over by worshippers of Cyric. Madel has been left alive by the worshippers so that they can torture her, and she lives a wretched existence in a cage with her eyes having been gouged out. She is quite mad, but able to tell us that the temple used to be dedicated to Bhaal, before it was raided by Harpers shortly after Bhaal's death in 1358 DR. The Bhaalspawn, which the priesthood intended to sacrifice, were rescued during this raid. It is by speaking to her where we learn that this is most probably where Karname himself was rescued as a baby before being taken in by Gorion. Madel tells us that a Harper spy and a priestess were meeting in darkness and trying to hide their passion. This priestess then informed the Temple of the Harper's plan after the Harper spy naively let it slip during one of their encounters. During the actual Harper raid, the priestess was killed by an arrow from a Harper, whilst the Harper spy was pleading with her not to sacrifice her own flesh to the Lord of Murder. This matches up with the story of Aliana, a priestess to Bhaal and Karname's mother who we learn about in Throne of Bhaal. The Harper spy was of course Gorion.
Love you.
Anyway, it seems like after the raid, some of Bhaal's priesthood survived and the temple endured, only for it to again be raided by Cyric worshippers in 1360 DR. As Siege of Dragonspear is set in 1368, Madel has been imprisoned and tortured by the Cyric worshippers for 8 years, details of which can be seen in the head Cyric priestess's diary. Upon finishing our conversation with Madel, she says the following.
The voice, it tells me, this is almost at an end. Soon I shall rest.
So when we go around the temple, we learn that the head priestess of Cyric, Akana, has been holed up in her room for a while and is suffering from nightmares. We can also find some books scattered around, one of which is on the Dead 3, and this guy, kicking a bookcase.
And repent.
When we speak to Akana, it becomes apparent that she is being plagued by a voice that is getting her to do things.
It infiltrated my thoughts. Used me to bring its monsters here. Murdered my people. I can sense it. Nearby. In the reliquary. I can't.
One of these monsters is a Neothelid, which is an Illithid tadpole that was left to grow instead of being implanted into a humanoid. We can actually see here that Cyric's symbol has been painted over an old symbol of Bhaal. Upon heading to the reliquary, we come across an Illithid called Darskellin. It is the source of the voices and immediately tells us the following. An image fills your mind. The creature before you walks down a dark passage before emerging into the bloody light of the temple. It stands above a pile of bodies in an attitude of triumph. Yours is one of the bodies on the pile, your brain removed from your skull. The image changes to that of the mind flayer bowing before an enormous pulsating brain in a pool of liquid. A feeling of success permeates the vision. This temple is now the domain of the massive brain creature. So it was Darskellin who was responsible for the voices in the heads of Madel and Akana. It is working for its master, an Elder Brain, but why does an Elder Brain want so desperately to use the temple as its domain? Why not find a secluded part of the Underdark? Why does the Mind Flayer even bother trying to soothe the priestess of Bhaal, Madel? If we go into the room where the Mind Flayer is, we can find a dead body and a dagger in the altar, and even in the game files of Siege of Dragonspear, which I accessed using the EE Keeper, there is an unused item called the Seal of Bhaal, which looks like this. Yes, those are lips on the amulet, and it seems to be a unique item. I asked Trent Oster on Twitter about any cut content regarding this part of the game, and he had the following to say. There is always content cut. Design makes plans, people get excited and some expand those plans. Reality hits and there isn't time to finish. So some content gets commented out or stripped altogether. Off the top of my head, I can't recall the plans around those two characters. As this location is so important to the Bhaalspawn saga, and we have already in Baldur's Gate 3 a possible team up between Illithids and the Dead 3, is it possible that this location did in fact get inhabited by an Elder Brain in Larian's version of events? Is it possible that this Elder Brain, who we do not come across, did eventually succeed in taking over the temple? It would be a logical way to introduce Bhaal to the Illithids. After all, the god of murder did return 114 years after Siege of Dragonspear, and perhaps if his followers reclaimed the temple, maybe they could have found a Mind Flayer colony already there waiting for them. Anyway, thanks for watching guys. Let me know what you guys think regarding this theory. I know that Larian want to weave their own story, but this being included in the game would make a lot of sense, given its connection to the Bhaalspawn and the Illithids. If you enjoyed this video, then do please give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!